Young Justice Season 4 is called Phantoms, and last time we talked about some of the dead characters that could come back. But now let's look at some of the relationships that could return from the past to haunt team members. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to Comic Book Nostalgia. I'm CB Nostalgia, and let's take some time to talk about Young Justice Season 4 Phantoms. But first, I wanted to remind everybody, if you're looking for your place for all your comic book news, rumors, and reviews, all while looking for the best and positive in these characters you love, make sure you hit that like button and press subscribe. Well, it had been a few months since we did our video focusing on the dead characters potentially returning to Season 4 of Young Justice. We broke down quite a few potential story threads, but today we thought we would talk a little bit about relationships that could come back to haunt various characters. If you missed the first video, make sure you check out the link in the description below. The season is called Phantoms, so things from your past, alive or supernatural, could impact the characters of the team, and Greg Weisman and team have left it up to us to try to figure out where they're taking us. Now, the first relationship I wanted to talk about involves clones. And although that could mean a couple of paths, I'm referring to Superboy and Lex Luthor. Quite honestly, much of the story is left unfinished. We do know Lex is still part of the light and associated with Darkseid, and biological father, at least one of the fathers, to Connor Kent. This was really important to Connor during the early seasons, and it obviously ended pretty badly with Lex taking full advantage of him. Although this seems to be a lesson learned now that Connor is entering a new phase of his life with Megan, it's very likely the demons, or phantoms, of his past circle back around. Additionally, let's not forget his relationship with the Geomorphs. He is a Geomorph and was created by Cadmus. This connection to Cadmus, we could call Cadmus his mother, along with Lex, can't be broken and will likely return to haunt him. Connor Kent clearly cares about his brothers from the Cadmus facility, and he's not likely to forget them. And well, speaking of Cadmus and cloning, how about those Harpers? Now, you may have found it a little confusing last year with Jim, Will, and Roy Harper. Just to bring you up to speed, Jim Harper is the original Guardian and was a clone by Cadmus of the original Roy Harper, just chronologically force-grown and a little mind-wiped. Will Harper, former Roy Harper, is the Archer from Star City whose alias was Speedy, and he partnered with the Green Arrow. Later he became the Red Arrow when he separated from his mentor and when the programming the Light had implanted was triggered. And then there's Roy Harper. Now this is the original Roy, now called Arsenal, and also a former sidekick of Green Arrow. In Young Justice, shortly after becoming Green Arrow's partner, he was abducted by Lex Luthor and the Light, and then he was cloned for the specific purpose of infiltrating the Justice League. This version of the character remained cryogenically frozen for over 8 years, before he was found in 2016 by Red Arrow and his wife, Cheshire. This common cloning background between all of these characters could reveal something very scary in upcoming seasons. Clones sometimes are a bit, well, unstable, and since at least 2 of the 3 Harper brothers are clones, this very well could impact them. How this manifests is pretty unclear, but you don't really have to use your imagination very long to see ways that Cadmus could be autopiloting their clones and making quite a hard time for the team. I guess there's also the possibilities of where we're taking Bowhunter Security. That really was one of my favorite episodes last year, and it's probably a one-off, but the brothers are well received by fans and we're absolutely going to see them next year. Finally, when it comes to the Harpers, let's not forget their relationship with Oliver Queen. It was never good in this series, and we haven't really seen any resolution of that throughout all 3 seasons. As a minor phantom that could circle back around, I definitely could see Oliver Queen trying to resolve his previous relationships with both Roy and Will. This brings us to probably the saddest phantom that there is, Dr. Fate. Now, if you remember back in Season 1, Zatanna actually donned the helmet of Dr. Fate and took up the mantle for 1 episode. Dr. Fate took quite the liking to this host and wanted to keep her permanently, but her father, Zatanna, a primed and seasoned magician, offered up himself in exchange, and Nobu took the deal, freeing Zatanna to be with the team. Now obviously, this is some guilt Zatanna has carried with her for a really long time, and we've heard her speak of it several times. But during Season 3, we got to actually see a visit between her and her father, and it's clear the helmet of Nobu is killing him. He had aged quite a bit since the short period of time leading back to the previous seasons. You really have to ask yourself what happens in the event of his death. Clearly, you can't wear the helmet forever, and the power of fate might be actually bleeding away his own life force. So what happens if he dies? Will Zatanna take over the role? And will Nobu even wait that long? This was always an emotional story, and remember, Nobu only took Satara because he was better suited. This may no longer be the case, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw the story evolve and see Zatanna offer to trade roles with her father, just like in Season 1. Some of our newer characters also have some phantoms that could raise their ugly heads. That would be Cyborg and Violet and their association with Father and Mother Box. Now when you watch Season 3, this wrapped up just too cleanly. And there's no way that's the last we hear of this. These relationships between the characters and their source technology is completely built in, and may be a constant specter haunting both of them going forward. Father and Mother Box are life forces created by the new gods, and have ties that go way beyond these two mortals. As we saw last year with Metron and his attitude towards the team, when needing help with Cyborg, these forces don't really care about those that live on Earth and very well might want to reclaim these sentient technologies. These forces will not likely be forgotten by the new gods, and certainly not by Darkseid and his minions. We know the forces of Darkseid will be returning, so the boxes may appear to be gifts of power now, but they're likely going to be a heavy burden for Vic, Violet, and the rest of the team. And then there's the potential fallout between Artemis and the rest of the team, and that fake Wally encounter. Wow, that was a big one. This was another major deception in a season that was absolutely packed with lies, but quite honestly, this one caught me off guard. I would definitely call this a very personal phantom that was left completely unresolved. Zatanna and Miss Martian were really out of line here, even with the best of intentions. We all know Artemis needed closure with Wally, and as friends, they wanted to do that for her, but they lied, and they deceived her, and it will haunt them. Now, the only upside I could see from this encounter is it kinda confirmed Wally isn't necessarily dead. It doesn't prove he's not dead, but the extensive history of the character, both in comics and in animation, being trapped in the Speed Force is pretty well known by fans. This will actually be the subject of an upcoming video, and you might find it pretty interesting. Now, there are a couple of other phantoms that could raise their heads, and they didn't really fit well in this video. The Phantom Zone, the Legion, General Covert Actions, Superheroes vs. the Government, Super Babies, and new team members all will be covered in the next video. Obviously, the team has a ton of phantoms that could haunt them from their past, and those don't necessarily have to be ghosts. I am really curious if you can think of any other relationships in the series that could come back and haunt team members in the upcoming season. Sound off in the comments below. If you like this video, make sure you press a like, click subscribe, and if you don't ring that bell, you won't get any updates. Peace.